Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm going to show you how to make one of these out of things that you will have laying around your house if you live in India and hopefully abroad as well. So the basic ingredients for this mask are fabric, specifically cotton fabric. These are 2 salwars that I had gotten rid of. A paper clip. You want to make sure that it's thin and that it bends pretty easily. And then one of these bags. You'll probably recognize this as one of the new shopping bags that vendors are giving out instead of the old see-through plastic bags. These are actually similar material to what's used in the proper N95s, so this is going to be our filter in the center. You'll also need a measuring tape or ruler if you don't have one, a scissors that you can use to cut fabric, so it has to be sharper than a normal one, pen and pencil, or pen and paper or pencil, needle and thread, of course, and an ironing board if you have it. Make your job a lot easier. I also use a thimble because there will be a lot of hand sewing. If you have a sewing machine, this will be a lot easier, but I'm going to be doing it by hand sewing because we don't have a sewing machine. The first thing to do is print out the pattern from the link given in the description and then cut it out, including these little notches on the sides. You'll see those are very important once we actually get to it. You place your pattern on top of the material and just follow the outside on your filter paper. Not paper, filter material. And this will all be covered on the edges, so don't worry about drawing inside the lines. Notice that I have folded the material, so we will be actually making 2 halves of this by cutting once. And you cut along here. So see, this fabric is pretty wrinkled. To get the proper cut, it's much easier to actually iron it first. So that's what I'm going to be doing. After ironing, you just take the pattern, place it at the fold. In this case, these are the pants, so you can see the fold there. And then just do the same thing with your pen. Make the little notches. There you go. After cutting it, this is the result. Okay, so this is going to be the outer side of the mask, and I've added the filter already. This is going to be the inside of the mask because it's a bit softer than this one. So I'm going to do the same thing with this fabric. So these are our 3 pieces of the mask. This one is going to be my outer one. So this is the outside of the fabric. This is the inside of the fabric. I put the filter on the inside of the fabric. And then I put this one, which I want to have the outside of the fabric facing towards my face. This is the outside, this is the inside. So I place it outside up on top of the others. Now we need to cut 5 of these kind of strings to cover the outside of the mask and then become these. So this is the binding and these are the strings. Now I've already cut one of these. These are 20 inches by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go cut 4 more. As you cut these, don't worry about trying to make them perfect. They're all going to just end up like this anyway, so you can cover up any problems that you have at all. So don't worry about it. Now that you have the 5 equal strips, what you're going to do is take one and cut it in half. Then you need to take the other 4 and you're going to make 2 long strips out of these. So make sure that you have the right sides together. So this is the front and this is the back. This is the front, this is the back. You want to place them at a 90-degree angle, like this, with the front sides together. Then you need to sew a 45-degree angle here to make this into one long strip. Now when you're preparing the thread, I like to make sure that there's 2 lengths, so I bring it all the way back around and tie the 2 pieces together so that it gives it a little extra strength. And where I want strength or for it to look nice, I use a back stitch, and other places where it doesn't matter how nice it looks, I use a normal running stitch. When you finish sewing the 45-degree angle, you get this single long strip. These are what's going to become the top and bottom of the mask and extend into the ties. Now, to finish this, you have to cut this triangle off, leaving about 1/4 of an inch of seam allowance, like this. Then if you want to be really strict about sewing rules, you would press this open with your iron and then it would be lovely, but I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. So the next thing I'm going to do is make a jacket for the paper clip, because otherwise it'll be painful when you bend it to fit over your nose. So I have a little scrap of the fabric that I'm using, and I'm just going to make it into a cover for this. This is what you end up with. Just don't worry about it looking pretty or anything. This isn't going to be seen. If you look at the finished mask, this is what's here to make the nose fit properly. So it's going to be hidden underneath this binding. The important part is that it's a little padded and easier to manipulate in terms of bending and putting it into the mask. So at this point, this is what I have. You have the 2 long straps, the 2 short straps, the actual mask part of the mask, and the paper clip, which has been given a little coat. Now I'll show you how to assemble it. So now what you're going to do is you have these 3 layers. Your inner layer, which should be soft, your filter layer, and your outer layer. Lay them together, make sure they're lined up as much as possible. As you can see, I've kind of messed up here, but that's going to be within the seam allowance, so it's okay. Now, take your measuring tape or ruler and see what 1/2 inch is. That's going to be your seam allowance all the way around. So you just make a single line of normal running stitch, 1/2 inch all the way around this. After that, you get this, just the fabric sewn together. You'll notice that I have actually tied all the knots on the outside. That's because if you have this on the inside, it might irritate your skin when you wear it. So that's why I've put all the knots on the outside, and these will be covered by the banding. That's also why I haven't really worried about whether these are entirely straight or not, because again, these aren't going to be seen. So now we're going to make these pleats, which make the mask really nice and make it fit to your face. Now you need to turn it over so that the inside is up, and then the pointed side of the mask should be facing away from you. And for this you need an iron. When you have this facing away from you, you see the two notches that you made at the end? You pull it up so that this notch on the bottom is the top, and then the notch on the top is the bottom of this pleat. So can you see this pleat? This pleat is the distance between these two notches that we made when we were cutting out the fabric. Now, something to note is that you need to use a relatively cool iron for this, because I accidentally kind of melted the filter fabric in the first mask. It doesn't seem to have affected it that much, but it is something to keep in mind. Okay, so there's the first pleat completed. And I did, still, even having a low iron, I kind of melted it a little bit. But that's okay, because it'll be fine. So now we do the same thing with the next pleat, right here. Hopefully I have avoided melting too much of the filter this time. And this is how it looks on the outside. Okay, now that I have the pleats ironed in, I need to sew along both sides. Just follow the lines that you've already made and just go right over them. Maybe twice to make sure that they stay closed, and then you'll have your mask ready to start binding. Okay, this is what I have. The pleats have been sewn in, and the mask is ready for the next step. So if you look at the pattern, you notice that there's two lines on the top and bottom here. You have to fold these back, and this one is going to be how our mask fits so lovely at the top on the nose. So we need to fold the fabric, fold the mask that you have made in half with the inside facing up, and then align the pattern with what you have, and then draw a line on the fabric, and then do the same thing at the bottom of the mask with the other one. And then what you have to do is sew along those two lines on this side. So once you finish making that, if you turn it right side out, you can see it's basically been made into a cup shape, which is proper shape to fit over your face, like this. Now, next thing to do is to cut everything to 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll add the paper clip and then be ready to bind. So at this point, this is what you have. This is the top where the nose will go. This is the chin, and fits over your face like this. So you can check that it's the right size for you at this stage. So remember, we put the paper clip into a little coat. Now we're going to make sure that it's against the very top of the mask where the nose goes, so that you can arrange it just how you need to fit your nose exactly, and that'll keep the mask skin tight. So the important thing as you're doing this is to make sure that the actual metal of the paper clip is in the stitch that you're stitching on, so that you're not just stitching fabric and not making sure that the paper clip is actually there. So when you put the paper clip on, this is what you end up with. You can make it nicely fit your nose, and then that will fit very well and make sure that the mask is airtight. Okay, the next part is to put the binding on the edges, like this. First thing to do is sew in the middle of the binding on each side of the mask with a 1/4 inch just normal running stitch. So about like that. So this is where we make this binding, similar to what's on the finished mask. Now this is what I've sewn on to the side with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now if you notice, this is the wrong side of the fabric and this is the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to pull this up and over and then tuck it in like this to make it about 1/4 inch on this side as well. And then I'm going to do a nice running back stitch right across this to make it look pretty. Okay, this is when it's done. Now I just need to chop off these side pieces like this and do the other end. So this is what we have at this point. Now remember that long strip that we stitched together? What you're going to do is turn that upside down, and where you stitched it is going to be in the center of the mask. So this is for the bottom, and the same thing will happen with the top. Once again, you just sew straight across for a 1/4 inch seam allowance and then bind it up the same way. Now that you've done this part, it's now time to do the top. Now on this, you need to make sure that the entire paper clip is underneath the binding, so it should just go straight across here and attach the same way. So I have sewn right underneath where the paper clip is. If you can see, there's a line of blue thread there. So that when I wrap it around, I will just cover the paper clip up very nicely and have a nice binding right there. At this point, you can try it on and see if it fits. Now, one way to see if it fits properly is to make sure that the metal is against your skin and then see if your glasses fog up. I haven't gotten much fogging, so it fits properly. Now, if I move it like this and it doesn't fit properly, then it really fogs up my glasses. At this point, all we have left to do is the straps. So this is where you need your iron again. You lay out the strap like this, and then first flatten it, and then again you want 1/4 inch seam allowances here, here, and on this side. And then you fold it in half, and you'll just do a running stitch along here, and then you'll have your straps, and you have to do that for all 4 of them. When you're finished with the straps, this is what you should have. And now you're ready to go to the bazaar or wherever you need to go outside. Now, to make sure these are clean, I would hand wash them with detergent after coming in, every time after coming in, and then just dry them either over a back of a chair or hang from a line. And these will be fine to use for a number of days. Stay home, stay safe, and use the mask when you have to go outside.